Welcome to DynaVap Live. Today is July 30th and it is 4:19 p.m. I'm Retail Josh.
I'm George.
And we're going to be discussing limited products today, as well as be joined by a special guest later on. But first, let's do some shout outs from the chat.
We have Shui from Detroit, Brandon from Tampa, Felicity from Australia, George from Gilroy, Dean from Israel, Walter from Sicily, Cult Leader from Maine, Caleb from Arkansas.
How's the garlic in Gilroy?
And if this is your first time joining us and you have any sort of beginner-related questions, share the hashtag #FirstClick in the chat below. We'd be more than happy to answer those questions for you. And also make sure that you subscribe and ring the bell to be notified whenever we release new content, such as Exploring the Dynaverse episodes, the Snap, or streams like DynaVap Live. And I think you should also check out the Instagram page. We do giveaways frequently, behind the scenes, show upcoming footage, and we also do the tea time, don't we, George?
Yes, we do. It's a good time for tea time. Sunday at 8:30 Central, if you're looking for something to do or just want to sit down and have a cup of tea with us, it's nice.
And when do you do that?
8:30 Central Time on Sunday.
Perfect. And then, Pranav, there's something called the Dynaverse Discord. Can you share a little bit about what that is and why it's such a great community?
I will. So we have plenty of enthusiastic DynaVap fans and individuals on the Dynaverse Discord, and it's a great time. Some really amazing conversations going on. So if you want to be a part of that community, please join us. I'm going to drop the invite link in the chat below, and we'll see you guys there.
And George, I think it's a good time to thank the Dynaverse.
I think it's a great time to thank the Dynaverse. So thank you, Dynaverse.
And so we want to thank the FC Forum, r/DynaVap, r/VaporEnts, Vapor Asylum, all that community support, the Dynaverse Discord. That's what makes all this possible, as well as all the retailers out there in the world that help get our products in everyone's hands. And speaking of those wholesalers and retailers out there, we want to feature some of them this week with our monthly wholesale feature with our sales dude, Jeff Alexander. So let's see what he has to say.
I'm Jeff Alexander, sales dude with DynaVap. Today we are featuring two wholesalers, the first of which is Roll and Smoke in Brookings, South Dakota, and the second, Urban Mist Alternatives in New Berlin, Wisconsin. Roll and Smoke is the largest vape shop in South Dakota with two locations in Brookings, South Dakota and Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Roll and Smoke has a very large showroom and all the accessories you need to smoke and vape. If you're looking for something in Wisconsin, Urban Mist Alternatives is a great vape and smoke shop with a diverse selection of vape hardware, smoking accessories, local CBD products, and of course, DynaVap.
Hi, I'm Jeff Alexander, sales dude with DynaVap. I'm here with Tyler with Urban Mist here in New Berlin. Tyler, tell us about your shop.
Yeah, so we are a vape shop located in New Berlin, Wisconsin. Been here for 5 years. We actually opened on April 20th, 2015.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so open 6 days a week, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. And we got all the DynaVaps, and we started as mainly just a regular vape shop, and we've kind of turned into more of a hybrid store, offering more of like a smoke, CBD, and other types of selections. But when I saw the DynaVap, I fell in love because we're a vape shop, right? So it makes a lot more sense. Instead of carrying glass and stuff like that, we really kind of focus on the DynaVap when people come in here. So
outstanding.
It's super cool, and they're from Wisconsin. We're from Wisconsin. It's the only way.
If you're looking to purchase DynaVap in Wisconsin or South Dakota, please visit Urban Mist Alternatives in Wisconsin and Roll and Smoke in South Dakota. That's been this week's Wholesale Spotlight. If you have a shop you'd like featured in your area, please send the information to jeff@dynavap.com. Thank you for joining us.
And this shop map on the where to buy section on the website, it's such a great tool to see all the different retailers that you can pick up a product right next to you. So check it out. If you're looking to purchase online, there's many authorized retailers on there as well. And now, Pranav, you wanted to say something during the break?
Yes, I did. I saw a couple of questions regarding the mask I was wearing. So this is a cool gator that we designed. Let me get it straight. So they're available right now on the DynaShop under merchandise. So we got some new merch We also have a new M sticker pack, so if you guys like stickers, check that out.
I definitely know we get a lot of requests for stickers, so now you can purchase a whole pack and check that out.
More stickers.
Yep. Stickers are
They're
great.
actually really cool stickers because they're distilled down to component level.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I'll have to take a look at those. And I think now is a good time to take a look at our community question of the month. And so every stream we ask a new question on our Twitter and our YouTube channel. This month's question was, how do you store your Vap cap when you take it with you? The options were plastic tube, DynaStash, 2020M cardboard package, and custom/maker stash. Now, Pranav, what do you find yourself using most of the time?
Most of the times I just toss it in my pocket or throw it in my bag without any stash, but if I am using a stash, I do have a maple Lichtenberg that I've been using for a couple of years now, and it's held up pretty well. That's my answer.
And what about you, George?
I guess I'm in the minority because I like these. Actually, I like these a lot. After carrying my last one in my pocket for over 4 months, I decided to retire it before I destroyed it or ended up inadvertently washing it. And so now this one's been in my pocket for a few weeks. I find them to be extremely comfortable. They're very lightweight. They're very compact because in terms of thickness, it's just 2 pieces of paper thicker than the M itself. And being the flat profile, it fits in, it rides in your pocket without any significant bulges or anything else. It's just it's a nice package. You can put your device in here even when it's hot, and it's all good.
It's nice and discreet.
I think it's very nice and discreet. Very lightweight. Just I like it.
Yeah, I usually go between either the cardboard or my slim stash. I really like the slim stashes. When I'm on the go, it's easy, pocketable, and I can carry with me anywhere. And I think now is a good time to talk about our main topic of discussion, which is the new limited section on the website. George, can you tell us a little bit about what this means to the customer out there?
Well, this is some really cool stuff. Thank you everyone for helping us be around long enough that we actually have some older stuff. And so we went through, dug through the shelves and the archives and came up with a selection of some of our older stuff that we produced back then. We've got some 2017 M's, a couple of 2018 M's, and a few other things that we're going to elaborate on in just a little bit. So these 2017 M's are original production run. These are not just 2017 designs that we just made on our current machines. These are the original ones that we made back in 2017. So there's not a whole lot of them left, and they certainly function slightly differently than the 2019s, the 2020s. But people really liked them then. I think some people still use them on a daily basis. They're a good quality, durable product.
Yep, and you know, there's not too many out in the wild these days.
No, there's not that many left.
And now there's also one that I want to talk about because I think it's so interesting, and that's the Damascus steel bodies and stems.
Oh, they're cool.
And now we were talking a little bit about this before, but what makes the Damascus steel look the way it does? How is that manufactured?
Well, it's kind of manufactured like metal pastry dough.
Metal pastry dough. So, do you mean something like a croissant?
Exactly like that. Can you say croissant?
I cannot.
So
It's croissant.
Damascus steel is generally produced in 2 fashions. One where it's folded over on itself with a different alloy placed in between and then forged, pounded flat, folded over with, again, a different filler material, usually a different alloy of steel, so that when the piece is complete, a little bit of acid etching selectively corrodes one of the layers more than the other. And this is where you get that texture and where you get that varying different coloration of slightly more silver and slightly more black. So it's layered metal. It can also be created, I've seen some people on YouTube do a real cool job where they'll take some really unusual things like cables and put them in a cup and fill them with the other alloy of metal in powdered form and forge them together and end up some really cool patterns and just layers and various different things.
Now, one thing I do want to clarify, because it is going to be a different type of metal, it's going to have different care. Is that correct?
It absolutely does. So this is Damascus steel in the truest sense, in the regard that it is primarily comprised of iron. So in highly humid conditions or in corrosive environments, it will corrode or rust. So you do want to try and keep a little bit of a thin layer of a protective oil like DynaWax on here and take a little bit of care of it. You don't want to put it away wet. It will rust.
So definitely don't put it like in a plastic tube with no sort of coating on it for a
No.
prolonged period of time.
You don't want to do that, especially if it's a little bit damp. If you live in a humid environment, you just got to take a little extra care just to make sure that, well, if you don't want it to corrode. But then again, sometimes people like that kind of patina. I've seen a number of people driving around with some pretty awesome examples of patina on their car.
I think a great example too, we were talking, it's like a carbon steel knife or cookware where, you know, it looks great, but it does require that little bit of extra care.
So, some of the best carbon steel knives you can buy, same thing. If you leave them in the sink with a bunch of dirty dishes, they're going to be rusty.
And what else do we have? I see we have a phantom tip there.
We have a phantom tip, and I believe we have some Aurum 2019s.
And so, yeah, and those haven't been on the site, I want to say, since the 419 sale.
I think that might have been the last time.
Yeah, and then,
And there's not many left, so I don't know if we'll see these again.
yeah, because there's only so many of them out there. And I think now's a good opportunity before we kind of move on to some of the next topics. Pranav, are there any questions that you're seeing out there?
I have a few questions. One of them is, if I have my VAP cap sitting on a magnet for a really long time, will it mess up the calibration of the caps?
Oh, it's a terrible thing to do. If you leave it on your magnet, it's just going to completely degrade it. No, it's not at all. In fact, the magnet reinvigorates the cap with even better calibration, and it's actually a really nice way to pull a little bit of the heat out of it to reset it. Helps amplify the sound so you can better hear the click. Putting your device on a magnet, I think, is a very, very good thing to do, and I find it really improves the overall experience. What do you think, Josh?
I like it all. I primarily use it all the time because I find it, if I can't take a draw until the cool down click, there's a little bit less waste involved. It helps act as a heat sink, helps stop that, or it helps expedite that cooling process a little bit.
So you're not overcooking anything. And that's another huge advantage that we have with our product offering is we can heat things up very quickly. We can extract off the compounds that we're looking for, and we can cool them off very quickly so that whatever you haven't extracted or consumed can simply just stay in a relatively nice and flavorful state for longer.
Yeah, and I think we'll take one other question before we go to our next segment.
So I really like this question, George. So how long till you make a DynaVap katana? And before you answer that, if you do make a katana, I call dibs.
We might be able to get that done here in the next 9 months or so. In fact, I think I know just the person to do it. That's a fun idea.
And so I think now we're going to talk about the next episode of the Snap. Now, one of the questions that we get quite frequently when it comes to glass items, how to best clean and take care of them. Well, it all starts with how you clean and disassemble and reassemble your device. So that's what we cover on this week's episode of the Snap. Welcome to the Snap. This is the segment where we answer frequently asked questions in a very rapid-fire format. So let's get right into it. On this week's episode of the Snap, we're going to be discussing how to correctly assemble or disassemble a device using a BB9 or BB3 glass midsection. It's very important to take extra care when assembling a device with glass, as it will be more fragile. What you need to assemble your device is your glass midsection, in this case a BB9, your tip, your cap, and some DynaWax. To start, let's begin by taking your tip and a small amount of DynaWax, and we'll rub that into the O-rings on the tip. Rotate the tip a few times to ensure even coverage. This will help minimize the friction, which in turn reduces the stress on the glass and O-rings. Take your lubricated tip and insert it into the tip end of your BB9 by pushing and twisting simultaneously. Do not attempt at assembling the device at an angle as it can overstress the glass and result in a fractured midsection. Finally, all you need to do is put your cap back on your device and you're good to go. If you want to know how to clean your glass, check out the video here. Don't you just hate it when that happens? Let us know your thoughts on the BB9 in the comments below. And once again, I'm Retail Josh, and thanks for watching. And so for this month's heating tip, it's not so much a tip as it is some really good advice on how to get the best performance for you. And so when I'm helping customers, I see a lot of times people will heat their device like this or like this at a different angle. I recommend trying multiple different ways and figure out what works best for you. I personally find that if I hold it at a 45-degree angle as opposed to being perfectly parallel or down towards the tip, it gives me less what I want. And so try different things. Do A/B comparisons. Do multiple draws with fresh material with different techniques and find what works best for you so that way you can replicate that success and really find out what you enjoy so that way every session can be your best session. And I think now is a great opportunity to welcome our special guest for the week, Austin Simrell from the Simrell Collection. And so welcome on, Austin. It's great to finally have you on the show. Tell me a little bit about how you got started.
Oh boy. I started the DynaVap space 2.5 years ago, but I started woodworking 11 years ago. And the passion started with luxury pens, believe it or not. And what's really cool is sometimes I feel like I live in the Matrix. And it seems like the pen experience got me prepared to do these DynaVap stems. So 2.5 years ago, I came across the DynaVap. I had a customer request me to make a body for a DynaVap. Never knew what it was before. Kind of blew it off, made a DynaVap stem, and posted it on Reddit, and people really accepted it. So I continued to focus on putting my spin on this DynaVap product, and started with bodies. Then I went to started lining the bodies for the durability aspect of the lined bodies and easy to clean maintenance, and then transformed that into, now we have the Vortex. But what's really cool with this throwback ordeal we're having on the DynaVap website is we have a airportless stem that I made 1.5 years ago, I believe, which is really cool.
Now I'm going to ask you, Austin, why the airportless design?
So the airportless design for me is the easiest transition, or the closest reminiscent to a smoking experience, with that nice, tight, dense draw that you get when you smoke out of something that's rolled. So I wanted to bring that experience into this space for myself personally, because that's what I used to prefer before finding out about DynaVap. And then I came down here to visit George I think it was the second time, and George finally, I got some time to talk to George about the importance of the airport. And then, after that, that's when I started focusing on what's now the Vortex.
And so you got to really learn about how important fresh air injection is into the vapor experience. When you first realized that, what was your reaction?
My mind was blown. Just like every time I talk to George, and I want to get to the nitty gritty aspect of how this thing works. It was cool, and my gears started turning, and now they don't shut off. So thanks, George.
And now, George, I have a question for you. So you showed him like the importance of the airport. Now, because I see that quite frequently, people always want to block the airport because that's their instinct.
Right.
How did you go about kind of showing the light to Austin?
Well, to me, I think it's really important that I don't come across saying that one way is right and the other way is wrong, because that's not the case. It's just, in my opinion, there's a real important place that the airport holds in terms of the overall functionality of the device. And to just completely block it without giving it an opportunity to show you what it's capable of doing, well, you're just kind of reducing your options. So, in my opinion, the best way to learn your device is to utilize it, and to utilize it in various different ways, and do, like you said, do an A/B comparison. Mm-hmm. Compare your results, see what happens. And I challenge many people to heat your device like you normally do, but as soon as the cap clicks, just put it in your mouth and draw on it hard, without trying to cover or obstruct the airport in any way. And I'm willing to bet that you're going to be really surprised at what the result is.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more going on than just leaking air into the device.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's best to maybe just leave it at that. These devices are best when you can experiment with them.
Now, Austin, I want to ask, because this Blackwood Simrell stem that we have here with the green titanium tip, there's some history behind that. Can you expand upon that a little bit?
What do you mean?
With regards to when you came up and you had, with the inclusion of the green, that was like right around the time we had experimented a little bit with the anodizing, but it helped begin that partnership when you started selling the complete devices. Am I correct in that?
Oh, absolutely. And the green was intriguing to me because I wanted to do something that represented DynaVap, and there's no better thing than the DynaVap colors, which is black and green. And the green tip really accents the Blackwood really, really well. So that was a fun pairing. And really to date, Blackwood is still my favorite exotic species, and the history behind Blackwood is also very, very neat.
Yeah, these are pretty cool, aren't they?
It's a gorgeous piece. And we also, so that way you can see at home, let's get a close-up here. It just is a striking piece in person. And there's not too many of these out there. Like, it is a limited item. And Austin, how many would you say are out in the wild?
Oh, I've got 200 or less.
And so it's fairly rare collector's item out there. And, it's an airportless design. So for those of you who are looking for a more restrictive draw, it's a great option for those out there.
It's got a real nice feel to it. It's that nice wood. It's got that kind of tapered design that Austin likes to use.
Yep, and that'll fit in a 10 millimeter, correct, Austin?
Absolutely.
And then we also have what kind of got the whole ball rolling to start with, and that's this pen. And George, if you want to kind of highlight that there.
Oh yeah, that's a beaut.
And I think this is kind of fun because you can see some resemblance here between the devices.
Yeah, and
Depending
it's
on how you want to look at it. So that's kind of where things are at, what they look like. Some really gorgeous work. And a really cool piece that we got a very, very limited number of these things that we ended up kind of doing a little bit of trading for back in the beginning. And I wasn't quite sure how to bring them out, to put them on the website. So it's like, I'll just set them aside for a while because we'll just know when the time is right. And when we were talking about limited edition, or just simply limited parts and devices, it's like, you know what? I've got just the thing.
Yeah, when I first saw those, I was like, oh, there's no airport. And learning the history of it, it's interesting, and that kind of explained why. Now, Austin, one of the things that I want to ask is because you've been part of the Dynaverse for so long, you got to see the evolution of it. What kind of things are you looking forward to see in the future?
You know what? More modulation and more custom options that I think customers are looking for, and one of those are colored tips and caps that are sold separately from the full units. That's one of the biggest things that I would like to see DynaVap bring in the future.
And one of the questions, because you and I were talking a little bit before the show, one of the questions that you get most frequently, so I figured what better way than to answer it now when people are watching. What's the best way to care for a stem like that?
Oh man, whenever you buy a stem from me, I'll send out a wood conditioner and condition the stem weekly. Clean the intercooler, or not the intercooler, I'm sorry, clean the integrated condenser with a pipe cleaner or a Q-tip if you have it, with isopropyl alcohol, followed behind it with warm water just to soak up the residue from the iso and condition it. It takes about 5 minutes. It's very easy.
Mm-hmm. And you said you recommend doing that weekly?
Yeah, weekly, bi-weekly, depends on how much you use it.
Mm-hmm. And now, is there such a thing as doing it too frequently?
I don't think so.
Excellent. And then, Pranav, do we have any good questions out there for Austin yet? Nothing yet. And so, I do see one. We have to announce our Instagram winner, and so I have that for you. It's Derby Mock Shashin. And so, congratulations. So, reach out to JC at DynaVap.com, and we'll be able to get that sent out to you. And once again, I think we should plug your tea time that you do every week.
So if you're looking for kind of a nice time towards the end of the day on Sunday, which is 8:30 Central Time for us in our time zone, we just have tea time. It's just kind of a thing on Instagram, make up a cup of tea, and we sit and chat and talk about generally positive things, because that's what we like to do. We also tend to converse a little bit about some of the things that are going on at DynaVap, and if you're interested in some of the upcoming things, that's where we tend to maybe drop a few hints, or I think last week Pranav spilled the beans. Two of them, in fact.
Yep. And now one question, because you did kind of mention, because this is a Simrell product, is this stem compatible with the intercooler, or is the lack of air port make that obsolete?
It is not reverse. It is not reverse compatible, no sir.
Okay, perfect. And so I just wanted to make sure that people understood that, and so I think that answers some of the questions that we might have. And then Simrell, when you first kind of explored that, how did you get into the vaporizer industry? Like, you started to explore more aspects of it over time. What things keep you coming back to DynaVap?
Oh man, easy portability, and I don't have to recharge the batteries. I found out about DynaVap was the first product I found out about. Since then, I've been exploring the vape space, and I'll catch myself all the time, man, trying to reach for these battery-powered devices, and they're always dead. They're just always dead. So I can always come back to the DynaVap and use it. And what's really cool is if I run out of butane, it takes about 4 seconds to fill up the lighter, so I can easily get back to doing what I wanted to do.
And another question for you, will your products hit more EU stores?
Absolutely. That's something that I've been working on. You'll start to see a lot more development over time with my infrastructure. The biggest thing for me was, to take this product and focus on scalability and automation. And I've learned a lot of that from George. It's funny, I remember having a conversation with him, and he's like, Austin, a really big important aspect of what you're doing is automation. Have you ever thought of something? Have you ever thought of that? And it really wasn't anything that crossed my mind, because I was more into making like one-offs, one of a kind. But that is something that I've been taking very seriously. And I do want to make it much easier for people in Europe and around the world to access my products without having to wait for shipping, because as we all know, shipping has been quite difficult, especially international.
Now, George, do you have any questions that you think customers would like to hear the answer from Austin?
Where do you live, Austin?
I'm in Ohio, Toledo, Ohio, actually, and area code 419. Born and raised in Toledo. I'll tell you what, guys, I live in the Matrix. It's really cool to see the, I like to take opportunities like this to get the aerial view of kind of how things have laid out in my life, and it's crazy to be in this position now, like standing here, being on this live. By the way, guys, thanks for having me, and seeing how kind of things have gone and moved forward. And 419 is the thing that you guys are pushing for, more of the micro dosing, changing the general perspective of consumption, and I'm on board 100%. And it's funny that it's my area code.
Now, you mentioned the 419 and the moderation. Now, I want to ask, when you use a VAP cap or your Vortex, how often are you using the reduced bowl size?
Well, honestly, I fill it up the full size, and I just do one cap. So I've just, instead of using the half mass setting, I just fill up the full tip, go through about 2-3 heat cycles, and that's it. That's it for me. So that's my microdosing aspect of it. And I'll tell you what, Josh, I get a lot of questions myself about, would DynaVap ever make a bigger sized bowl? And my response to that is, if you're looking for a bigger sized bowl, go to another, check out other vaporizers that are out there, because I think DynaVap really honed in this microdosing aspect of the vaporizing platform, and it does it so fucking well. Oh, excuse my French, sorry.
It's all right, Austin. And one thing too, like, there's a large enough aftermarket and third-party support, such as yourself, where there are solutions for people out there where if they want to consume a larger dose, there are ways that you can do multiple caps at once. And so there are solutions out there as a workaround for that. And have you ever experimented with anything like that, Austin?
I've not. Just because I think you guys got it down, man. It just works so well as it is, and for me personally, like I said, the microdosing feature, I don't overconsume, or I'm not saying that, whatever. My tolerance is low, and I like to keep it that way, and the DynaVap just does it for me, man.
And then I see one question in there, George. Are there any new carrying options coming out? We asked that question earlier.
Carrying options.
Yes. So, are there any
Cases?
new cases or anything coming down the pipeline?
Oh, you could ask me just about any question about anything new, and the answer is almost always going to be yes. So, maybe Austin can kind of help bring a little bit more to this conversation. We work on more than one thing at a time, sometimes more than two, because we see so many opportunities to make our own products better, or to address an issue or a challenge that's out there that, in our opinion, could still see a little bit of improvement. So, yes.
And what about for you, Austin? I know that you have the vault that you're working on, and can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the vault for me is like the analog all-in-one for the DynaVap, right? You have the vault that has the odorless storage solution and the dual flame lighter in there. So you have everything that you need all in one that you can carry with you. And I'm same thing, always working on other things. And what's incredibly challenging, and the further along on this journey, the more I understand. One of the things George told me is, Austin, when you're working on stuff, don't share it with everybody. There's still a lot of things that you need to do before you can start sharing it, and it's incredibly difficult. It's incredibly difficult to not be enthusiastic and want to share all these things with everybody. And it makes much more sense now, watching you guys operate in regards to, for instance, the most frequently asked question is, when's the new Omni coming, right? There's a lot of steps that it takes to get a product ready, and I'm learning more and more every day what really goes into that.
Isn't it funny how the bigger you get, the longer it takes?
Oh, absolutely.
Even though you have more capacity to do things faster,
Yep.
it's like, oh, I should do this, I should do that. We need to prepare this far in advance, we need to work on these other things. There's a lot more to bringing any product to market than I think most people realize until they've gone through this exercise of bringing a product to market.
Yeah. The bigger the boat, the longer it takes to kind of steer the ship a little bit.
To a point.
Now, George, one of the things that you have always fostered is that community and that creativity within it, such as Austin Simrell. Was that always part of the plan from when you started?
Oh, it depends on how you say from when you started. Okay, so if we turn the clock way back to 2015, when the crowdfund campaign first went up, and then there was a thread started on a Vaporizer forum, and I started to interact a little bit with the community. Someone put me in contact with a few other people and started suggesting that instead of just making glass products, well, why don't you make something with wood? It's like, oh, never thought of that. Okay, how do I do that? And after thinking about it for a little while and coming up with what seemed to be a pretty good solution at the time, a titanium tip that would just integrate to a stem with O-rings, it's like, okay, well, that means we can use this tip on just about any stem, and then we can really spur that kind of creativity, not only with me or with DynaVap, but with other people as well. And that really kind of hit home when I started to see the first couple people doing exactly that. And it's like, do I want to ask them not to do that? Or do I want to embrace them and encourage them and support them? Well, I think we can see which direction we decided to go, and I think it was the correct choice, because the cool stuff that we see coming out of some of the makers in this community is just awesome. And I'm not just talking stems, I'm talking about all the various different accessories.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think that's the right way to go about it. It actually reminds me very much, for those of you in the gaming community, if you remember when Half-Life was first released and they had a mod out there called Counter-Strike. And rather than fighting that type of community, they built a whole new world around it and embraced it. And now it's bigger than what birthed it to begin with. And so it's all about embracing what can come out of an original idea and just let it grow and flourish.
Well, and maybe fertilize it. And occasionally you got to pull a few weeds, right?
And here's a question for you, Austin. Where did you get the idea for the intercooler design?
Oh boy, that was from I have a think tank if you will, with two other guys that I work with, and we wanted to push the envelope and see what we could do differently to cool the vapor. I have an incredibly sensitive throat, and for me personally, the devices as they are just warm, and they irritated my throat. So I wanted to do something different, and I had the idea of, I'm like, what if you were to put like a drill bit and have the air go through a drill bit, and then it spiraled to nice. I thought about the railings of like the cast iron railings, how they're twisted. I'm like, okay. And I brought it up to the guys. And I'm like, all right, here's this idea. I like this. But I said, you know what? We have to have a safety feature so people can't inhale this thing, which is why there's the T at the top that sits on top of the integrated condenser, so you can't inhale it. I don't know if that answered your question. Did that answer your question?
Where did you get the idea from, like the engineering behind it, to ultimately cool and condition the vapor a little bit further?
Testing. It was just through testing. It was, okay, let's take this metal, let's put it inside of the vapor path, and let's see what happens. With the integrating the offset air port as well. So you have the offset air port where you cover the airport. I like to flutter the airport, build the pressure, force it around the condenser. Then it's gonna continue to spiral, mix with the vapor, spiral through the intercooler, and it was just R&D. It was testing. It was does this thing work? I'll tell you what. One of the biggest questions I get is, Austin, why is your logo offset from the airport? And I did it because I wanted, when somebody looked at it, I wanted them to visually see that it was different. And when we first were playing with the offset airport aspect of it, because that plays into that's another aspect of the Vortex, more than just the intercooler. I lost my thought. Live. Happens.
The trials and tribulations.
Yeah,
well,
man.
I am going to throw you another question.
Hit me.
Now, when you're developing a product, you said it was a lot of testing.
Yeah.
How many iterations did it take you to ultimately get to the finished product?
Honestly, like 3. It was the balance that we had to play with the intercooler was, how many twists are we going to put in there? How many twists to put in there for the cooling versus the airflow? Because if you're putting a twisted piece of metal through a straight tube, you're obviously going to restrict that air. So we wanted to find the proper balance of the coolness of the vapor and the airflow, because I don't like, ever since experiencing it, like what George first explained to me with trying the M with leaving the airport open, my mind was fucking blown. I'm like, ooh, the unrestrictiveness, if that's a word, is incredible. And I wanted to implement that into my product and still get the cooling feature. So that's kind of where the different iterations of the intercooler came from.
Perfect. And then what's the size of the Simrell Blackwood for those that want to purchase one? Is it going to be more the size of the XL?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Yep.
And one other question, and this is going to be for you, George. It's going to be similar to what I just asked Austin with regards to testing a product. It's a lot of back and forth testing, retesting. How important is that when it comes to developing a product to make sure that it's
Absolutely
right?
critical. I cannot imagine taking a product to market without testing. And this is another opportunity where we've engaged with the community and we've created some groups, and some of them are more open and some of them are more closed and private, depending on what it is that we're looking for feedback on. And a great place to learn more about those groups and potentially participate in one of them is the Dynaverse Discord. So maybe if you want to put that link back up, Pranav, thank you. if you have interest in what we're doing as a collective community, you need to join the Dynaverse Discord. It is a super cool place to be. Lots of discussions going on, and they're not all DynaVap related. They're just discussions going on by people that collectively like some of the things that we're doing about other various topics. And so we utilize the Discord here to coordinate, to maybe soft launch, to beta test, and to gather feedback on new things that we're developing.
And I like that you mentioned that Discord again and how it's not all DynaVap related.
Not at
We
all.
talk about books, movies, food,
Video games.
video games, all that kind of stuff. And we're actually in the process of starting to plan like a watch party and getting interest on that. We want to really kind of foster that type of creativity and that family attitude. And
We want to foster a creativity of positivity.
And then I want to mention too, we picked a winner for this stream, and that is Barely Bluegrass. So I'll reach out to JC at DynaVap.com, and we'll be sending you a Aurum 2019M. And so look forward to that being sent to you soon. Just send that over. And then here's a great question from Devin Oates. Can you cook a chicken in a DynaVap?
Absolutely.
Like maybe that one.
Well, you didn't say how big was the chicken. And didn't say the whole chicken either. Because, you know, if you can cook herbs in here, you can probably cook just about anything that's worthy of consumption.
It would probably be an interesting experience.
Yeah, although there might be better choices for cooking that
Yeah.
you might want to experiment with first, but that is a phenomenal question.
And so Devin Oates, that was a fun question. Reach out to JC as well. That's once again JC at DynaVap.com. We'll send you
We'll
an
send
arm
you
as well.
something cool.
Yeah, because that was an entertaining question. And so before we wrap up, Austin, where can people find you online and your products?
Yeah, just go to Simrell Collection on Instagram, and I want to be more active on my YouTube channel as well. So make sure to check out the Simrell Collection YouTube. I want to go through myself and answer questions that I frequently get with some of these devices, more than just the Vortex, the Omni, the M, Hydrovong, all that, and also add my 2 cents on these products as well.
And what's your website? It's simrellcollection.com, correct?
Simrellcollection.com, yep. And I just launched simrellgallery.com as well, which is a place to find limited edition customs that you can acquire and get an idea of what they're going to look like before you order.
Well, we want to thank you for driving up and joining us today. It's been a pleasure. It's great to see you again. I haven't seen you since Las Vegas. And make sure that if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel, ring the bell so that way you're notified so you never miss any of this type of content, exploring the Dynaverse, the Snap, or DynaVap live streams. And follow our Instagram page. We do giveaways on there, and you can find us at DynaVap. And check out our where to buy section on the website if you're looking to purchase locally. And check out our new limited page. We have some really cool items. Just to recap, we have the 2017M, the 2018M. We have a Damascus steel body and stem. And so we have the shorter and the longer ones, as well as the Phantom tip, as well as some arm units. And so check those out, and make sure you check out that Simrell Blackwood stem. George, is there anything that you'd like to add?
We have presence on a few other social media platforms as well, including Twitter. And again, tea time, if you got time on Sunday, it's a fun place.
Yep, so check it out. Join George on Tea Time. That's 8:30 on Sundays on the Instagram channel. I want to thank you all for joining us today, and we will see you next month.
Thanks for watching. For more videos, click here or here, and don't forget to subscribe.